Thrive is made possible by the Miracle Channel family and their generous donations.
Wherever there's an incredible value for others, a love for others, that is where people just thrive.
Well, good morning and welcome to Thrive. You know what, I love doing these shows because we get an opportunity to connect and to minister to you, to talk through God's word and allow us to kind of invite you to the room. You know, Tamara said the other day, we've got a seat saved for you. And I love that idea because it does feel like you're here with us. I was talking to two ladies at church the other day, and one of the things they were saying was, man, we love starting our day with you guys. We are thrivers, as Eden always says all the time. She goes, but it's one of the greatest ways to start our day. And I want to say, if you feel that way, would you share, hit the like button, subscribe on YouTube, and also let us know. There's so many people who have prayer requests, who are believing for things, because even those two ladies who I was talking to, I was going, are you guys believing for something? And they're, yeah, this, and need healing for that. I'm like, have you called? And they're like, no. And I'm like, call the number on your screen. And it's not just for the sake of calling. It's calling for prayer, for agreement, for people who are ready to connect and to pray with you. Today, I'm joined by two of my favorites, David and Eden.
Good morning, guys.
I feel like sometimes we have to clarify who's married to who, because there's some people, sometimes when they're sitting next, they like...
You are both my brothers.
Oh, yeah, we're both brother-in-law.
Thank you for the
family. Because I bump into so many people like, your wife looks a lot like Eden. I'm like, I know, I get that all the time.
And there's a lot of us, so it's like, who's married to who? And
I know.
It's
and so I have like this family photo, and I was talking to some new people at the newcomers party, and they're like, okay, so who and David, which one's Danielle, and this, and and David preached that, and I was like, yeah.
And how many kids does this one have, and
I walked up to two people.
And who lives in Calgary? And they always ask us all the questions.
I walked up to two other people too, and they're like, they came up to me, Pastor David, thank you for doing Thrive to me. I was like, yeah, okay.
I am surprised. I've had people come and say, man, you preached such a great message last week. And I'm like, I didn't preach last week. It happens. I don't think we look anything alike. But
so
surprisingly,
funny.
it gets to happen quite a bit.
I could see how people maybe who haven't known you for very long, because you have a similar look,
like
right?
Maybe
exactly.
beards.
Like you don't look the same.
Ultra manly.
I can see how someone
incredible muscles.
Exactly.
Oh, okay, Lord help me.
Yeah. And you got the pregnant emotions and things flowing to the help eating Jesus.
Anyway, I love that fact. And in fact, some people come up to me sometimes and they'll be like, you mentioned this. And I'm like, when did I mention that? But I forget that it's on the show. And so we share a lot of like personal family stuff, which is fine. That's what I love. I like that. It's real and vulnerable. But sometimes they'll say something and I'm like, when did I ever tell this person that? And then I realize I said it on air. And I'm like, oh, okay. Gosh.
It's kind of a cool thought. I had a guy a couple days ago say, Dave, I'm pretty sure you're saying this, or was it Jeremy? It could have been Zach. It was one of you three that said something that really hit me, and I've been thinking on it for like months. It's like, I just love the fact that it's not really remembering who it comes from, but it's the good word that comes across and helps them, and they're sitting on it and marinating on it. I was like, that's so fun.
And that's exactly it. It's the good word, like you said. It's the good news of the gospel. Because I hear all you guys preach all the time, and we hear Zach preach, and we hear Thrive and this, and it's kind of just this ecosystem of the good news, and it's constantly just coming in many different angles and takes. And
it's a cool way to put it, an ecosystem, because there's a lot of people in the world that are dedicated to pastoring and teaching and preaching and the different gifts we know within the ministries. But it's real. We love the fact, and it's what Leon always did. He always had this dream of family ministering. And when you say ecosystem, it just hit me a little different, because we have this interesting ecosystem that we've just naturally developed into, which is very wonderful, though.
Well,
it's a beautiful
I was
thing.
talking to that new guy that at the church party. So we did this newcomers party we do on Sundays every once in a while for people who have just joined the church. We kind of get all the pastors in the room, meet with leaders and all that. And so I was talking with him, and that's one thing he said. So he came from another city where they were actually from Jakin's church. So they used to live over there. And one thing that impacted him the most was the legacy of Jakin's dad and him, and then watching his daughter, Ava, is that her name?
Yep,
Ava,
I think so.
on stage. And he said when he saw Jakin on stage with his daughter on stage, and knowing that his dad also started the church, he was like, the power of legacy.
Yeah.
And then they moved to Calgary, and now they come over to our church, and he was saying they have the most respect for Jakin, and they saw him on Thrive, and they're like, come on, no way, I didn't know you guys were connected. But the power of family. And he was saying, like, it's not just the family, it's the fact that the family wants to be in ministry. Like, and so I was kind of asking him, and I was leading him on. I was kind of like, but like, why do you think that is? Like, why do you think that pastors' kids you grew up with, that we all grew up with, were the hardest partiers, the people who rejected church the most? Most people would be like, oh, it's a PK, watch out for PKs. And the reason for that, in my opinion, is because the pastors that I knew in that time, they prioritize church over family.
Right.
And the culture of ours is so different. The culture of Jenkins as well is not that at all. It's God, family, church, number 3. And when you do those right, the ministry follows.
And not segregating it. Like mom and dad brought the family along doing ministry. So it was like a family, a team thing, not like, oh, go away, kids, let the adults do the work. So, and I think he made us fall in love with ministry. And one thing I want to say too is, like, it's a very rare percentage of the population that will be pastors and pastors' kids. And I've been reading a book called, I think it's called Building Faith at Home. And it's just this pastor talking about how God awakened him to the fact that churches need to support families at how to build faith in their own homes. And
so cool.
And family ministry is for every godly family. It's just what I wanted to point out, that even if you're a businessman or you're, you're a stay-at-home mom, like, ministry is wherever you are. And your kids, you can pull your kids along in that with your neighbors, with how you bless others, with how you speak to salespeople when you're out shopping.
So much more than just a jingle or a flashy thing for Christians to say that. And I kind of want to point this out for people, even young believers, older believers, people who've been in the faith for a long time. Like, what you're saying is, to me, is the single greatest thing for a family.
Yes.
Like, it's the purpose that drives it. Like, I was thinking the other day as I was driving, and I was like, what if, like, I often had these weird exercises. David always tells me all the time, he's like, you do have these weird thoughts. Like, I'll think about the most extreme version ever, and you're like, what? But it sometimes brings clarity. But I was like, what if everybody was saved? Everyone. What do we do? Like I literally was like,
we'd be with Christ.
Yeah, that's eternity. That's
I was like, we'd have some really good church service stuff. But the thing for me was, I was wrestling with the idea of being like, almost every decision I make is to either train my children the right way in the word and the ministry, and I would still be doing that, obviously, but also ministry reaching focus. Like, even the other day, I was talking with we were sodding our backyard, and my neighbors come out, and we're talking with them, and the whole time we're talking with them, the whole time I was thinking, I'm going, I love these people like they're my family, because I see the way God's created them. Like, I feel, but I know they're not saved, and so I feel this compelling, how do I reach them? Like, it almost feels like they're hanging off a cliff, and you're going, how do I get them over? How do I pull them back? How do I pull them back? And this, like, compelling feeling. And so one of the greatest things for our marriage has been that incredible purpose, like you were talking about. Like, there's friends I know who their marriages are kind of like on the rocks all the time. And I'm trying to help them or do this. And one of the things that I've kind of given advice now is I'm trying to make sure that they go, like, you have to have that common purpose, and it should be the ministry. It should be serving. It should be how you're raising your kids in the faith. And, like, I think so many Christians gloss over that. They think just their faith is Sunday. Right. They just leave it at that.
No, it's the purpose of our life.
Yeah.
You have to have that central. If you don't have that, it's so easy to get caught up in all the things that don't matter, and things can get weird fast when you don't have a central purpose of what you're pursuing. Because if you don't have that purpose, if you actually think about it, it's a selfless purpose, because it's not about you, it's about others. It's very quick to become selfish if you don't have that purpose. Focus on self, and when you start to do that, that is the beginning of the end if you're both just going to be selfishly focused.
I was talking to a person who used to be a witch, and we were talking through all this, and she's now radically saved and like on fire for the gospel. Like, it's so cool. And one of the things that she was saying, though, was, and I asked her, I was like, so did you call yourself a witch? She goes, no, I didn't know I was a witch. I was like, but you know now. She goes, oh yeah. Like, she goes, I thought I was this, like, force for good, and that it was this warping of truth, and that
she was deceived.
She thought everybody else was, like, kind of, like, she didn't say it this way, but, like, everyone else is kind of dumb, and they haven't gotten as enlightened as she is. And I was like, what a deception. Like, what a but it was exactly kind of what you're saying, where it's like, she needed to, essentially, it was all selfish driven. Everything was pleasure, all about how I feel, me, and everyone else was not at that level yet. And I was like, man, what a wild way in that Satan would do. Like, it's just, I was asking her 1,000 questions because I was like, I need to know about this. This is wild. I did want to get to a verse for you guys today again, and which I'm glad we're getting here, but I'm trying to find it. But I'll say it first. And I was wrestling with this concept, and we've talked about this before. And it's in James. I think it's in, so for whoever's online, if you can look it up, it's in James 3, I think it is, and it talks about where there's strife, there's every evil work. And David, you find it for me.
I've heard Andrew Womack preach on this many times.
Yes, and I've dug into this, and essentially it's a wild thing, because one thing I've tried to correct and coach in my home is there's this really fine balance I find with. And I'd be curious what the definition of the word actual strife means. But when my kids have arguments and stuff, like I was listening to them yesterday and they were upstairs and someone was getting pretty worked up, and my temptation was to just fly in there, and James 3:16, next, my team got it. My temptation was to fly in there and just, hey, knock it off, stop it. But it wasn't getting bad enough because I needed my kids to kind of wrestle. Ellis was
learning.
Ellis was kind of pushing her buttons, and she's creating a boundary going, knock it off. This has to stop. And so, but it hadn't crossed over into strife. Strife, maybe you look up the definition of strife, David, or maybe I'll do that real quick.
I'd be curious in the Greek.
Because it's not like, if you think about it, it's every evil work. Like when you start to realize the doorway that you are leaving open for Satan to bring demonic power and forces in, if you are allowing strife, which I think, I don't know the definition of strife, I'll ask you in a second. But it sounds like it's, you're not looking for a resolve. You're kind of marinating you become okay with unforgiveness and bitterness and anger.
And it's selfish emotions. Yeah. Like strife is you fighting for how you feel and what you want. And it's all about you. It's not about teamwork or solving the problem, right?
Well, you're referring to James 3:16.
Yes.
ESV, which I like to read, is, for where jealousy and selfish ambition exist, there will be disorder in every vile practice. The King James says, for where envying and strife is, there is confusion in every evil work. And it talks about, essentially, like if you read it, I was just reading back a couple of the scriptures too, about the different types of wisdom, earthly wisdom versus heavenly wisdom. And then James offers a response in 17 and 18 as to how to actually, what's the antidote to those things. But he's warning that if we've got like unchecked conflict or unchecked pride within relationships, even like competitiveness, competition's good, but unchecked competition, it can lead to an atmosphere where sin can abound because it becomes about self and about what we're trying to do. But then the next one talks about in 17, 18, the antidote that's offered is deliberately choosing wisdom from above, that is peaceable, that is gentle. And this is the big one, because this just has to do with yielding our pride, has to do with willing to yield to one another, to avoid the strife, to avoid that unchecked competition. Because if you're, when you have two guys and they have giant bravado and they're just trying to one up each other over and over and over, eventually it's going to go too far and the end's not going to be good. At one point, if it goes unchecked. And this is saying the wisdom from above is, even if you have to take a step back, you're actually doing the right thing, because you're not going to go overboard or give it a chance to where sin can abound.
But you'd think that'd be an indicator to many of us. I would assume most people grew up with some kind of strife at some point in the home. I could be wrong, but I would think, we're all imperfect and we've all seen strife in the home, either as a kid. For some people, it was their whole childhood, depending if you grew up in a Christian home or parents who maybe weren't even taught the skills of how to deal with strife or whatever. But you think of your own times of strife in your marriage or whatever, it always ends in a blow up. When you keep entertaining it, it always blows up. So then you're like, well, that didn't feel good, and this doesn't. And then you learn, hopefully, over time. Jay and I always say to each other, like, we're a team. It's not one against the other. Like, Bible says we're one. So like, let's come with that mindset when we're trying to, like, for me, as soon as I heard the first message on that verse, I was like, Jay, we got to stop the strife. Like, it's not just like a little deal, it's like a big deal. Like, we have to make a conscious decision to not cause strife, because you kind of fall into this pattern of like, it's not intentional. We're just working things out, but you're choosing to like be really emotional and in the face of someone and like, you're not listening to me and da-da-da. And typically you're fighting for your feelings and what you think. and you're not actually trying to seeking to understand. I was reading that in Proverbs today, Proverbs 18, how a fool is someone who just, I'll look it up, Proverbs 18:2, I think, was how a fool is someone who just wants to always talk about their opinions and not someone who seeks to understand.
Yes.
To me, that's strife.
Yeah.
Not seeking to understand, but always just wanting to puke your opinions and what you think and me, right?
For me, the doorway to strife has always been when I ask why. Like if Tamara maybe did something or didn't do.
Like judging their intention, which
totally. Immediately judging their intention. Like if all of a sudden, let's say she normally does something that I'm expecting and all of a sudden she doesn't, and I immediately go, why didn't she do that?
Yeah.
And then I go down that road of answering that question.
Yeah, that's the key what you're saying there. You answer the question for her.
Yes.
Yeah.
If she does something and you start saying, why would she do that? And you start projecting answers,
that aren't
you are
real.
now judging her intention, her heart, which only God knows the heart.
Yeah.
But if you were to say, Tamara, you did this, why did you do that?
Yeah.
And now she explains
that's okay to do.
That's okay.
So I meant internally. Yes,
totally.
You're totally right.
Well, the root of this, is you're talking about envy and strife, right?
Yeah.
Envy is resenting what someone else has and wanting it for yourself. We talked about strife already. A bitter rivalry, selfish ambition, or just a contentious spirit. And usually that comes from honestly rot within.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. When you're approaching a certain way. But I was just doing a quick little study here. A quick biblical example, obviously Cain and Abel. You look at what the jealousy and the envy and the strife led to, and it led to murder, right, of one's own brother. Because it's heart issues that eventually become outward issues of what happens when that stuff takes root.
When I think about when strife is happening with my kids, and what I'm always thinking is what does the Bible say, and what's a verse, or how can I bring something in? I'm always getting them to think about the other person. So it's interesting that the verse after said to yield to the other person, because I'm like, hey, think about what your brother's feeling right now. And the Bible says, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. So what we sow, we reap, guys. And I know they're young, but I'm like, you got to start young and just tell them. And eventually it clicks, because they experiment with it with their siblings, and they pick on each other, and they're learning. And a couple times, and they go, oh, I see what she's talking about, because they get to interact with their siblings.
And whatever you're marinating your children in, they'll eventually seek later on when you're gone. That's one of the things I find is that it blows my mind how often when you see people who are in damaged relationships, if they open up the door to you to allow you to ask questions, you start to ask questions. What was the example you were given? What was the parents you had? How was their relationship? What kind of love did you see? 9 times out of 10, it's exactly in the same pain that they saw, the same. And so it's where they're hurt people, and they create this environment where the kids, they seem to seek it out. It's crazy. And so this warning is a giant emergency warning saying be careful, because whatever environment you're creating, you're going to make your kids, that'll become their normal.
That's the interesting word you said, environment, because strife isn't just another sin. Yeah. This verse is warning us, it's the environment where all sin can grow.
For sure.
Where it can abound, right? Yes. It has the ingredients to make things like hell on earth, right? You think you're in an issue with this one little thing, and strife takes root. Well, now you're going to have a bunch of different things shooting up that are the potential for those things shooting up. Yeah. That's why it's such a harsh, strong warning by James here about to be careful of this, to not let it set root.
And I think what's important to point out is strife is a choice. Yeah. It's not something that takes over, just like God and Holy Spirit can't take over your body and make you do something. It's the same with the enemy. It always needs a willing participant to participate in that way of thinking or that way of being or doing. And so if you're deceived, that's a different thing. If someone's totally deceived and strife is their way of life, pray for that person and just really hold them up to Christ and ask God for wisdom. But if you are a believer and you are living a Christ-centered life, then you have to wake up to the things that you need to change. Yeah. And strife is a choice. Yeah. It's a choice. It's a choice because I've been in a conversation with someone where it's okay, I think this is getting a little bit out of hand, hey? And you're hoping that both of you can realize sorry. You realize I made a choice to be really rude to that person, or I made a choice to raise my voice and want to be heard but not want to understand. And so I guess what I'm trying to point out is it's not hard to stop strife. You just have to be really intentional about what you're going after, look for the triggers, look for the things that are happening. And then what David said, the next verse said, get wisdom, which means we need to keep researching the word for how do I grow my relationship? So I think of a soft answer turns away wrath. Like there are principles that are like, okay, I have to adopt these things. I have to try them. I have to, if I really want to live a life of freedom, then I need to follow what Jesus said. I can't just hear it. I have to do it. Jesus said, right?
Well,
so
there's a few things I want to say. I want to mention laugh, but then the other thing I want to talk about is when Jesus brought clarity about loving your neighbor as yourself. That, to me, is the answer to strife.
Totally.
Is that think about what that is asking of you.
Totally.
Like think about how we so look out for us. Like we are so fast at going, no, I didn't mean it that way, or no, I would never. Like even though we do, and we always, and so we protect ourselves even when we know we've done wrong, but our intention was right. We judge ourselves by our intentions and others by their actions. Totally. Which is like so unfair. You know, imagine if we should go, hey, I know you didn't intend to, but it did hurt. And so we flip it. And so if we're to take God's standard, what Jesus said, the standard is to forgive that person as quickly as you did yourself. Yeah. Which is like so instantaneously, which is a wild.
Yeah, I forgave myself yesterday.
Yeah.
Before it happened.
It's a problem. I did wrong. Oh shoot, it's okay. And you don't give it another thought ever. Like you're instantly going, I didn't mean to, but I screwed up. No problem. Like you're just you're not sitting there going, oh man, did I ever? Oh, and the more I thought about it, the madder I got at myself. No, like you instantly ditch it. You're just gone. Who cares? And that's what we're called that quick. Like it's just, and there's a few people in our lives that we can quickly think of people that do that, where it's just water off a duck's back. Yeah, no problem, no problem, no problem. Now it doesn't mean to be walked over and abused and do that. It's like set standards, sometimes the answer to strife is boundaries and distance. Like when a person is not trying to pursue love, boundary, man. You got to create a new boundary. The other thing, the reason I say laugh is a big deal. Like for those who don't know what laugh is, it's this 3-letter acronym. We always say at our church every single Sunday for as long as I can remember: love, acceptance, and forgiveness. And the reason it's in that order is, I believe, because you have to approach every relationship with love, and then acceptance, and you're accepted the way you are, which is an identity thing. You know that you're safe in this environment of Christ, and then F is forgiveness, because you have to be so good at forgiving, because you'll be offended by me and all of us on the couch and anyone that we say here, because truth confronts. And so when you live a life of forgiveness, like I used to think as a young believer that forgiveness would just come when I had all the answers, when the person finally apologized.
Or all the resolve.
Yeah, when the person finally came and made it right themselves. Now, that's actually not forgiveness.
No.
That you can forgive in that scenario, but that's not the root of it. It's not getting all the answers. It's you choosing to forgive. It's fully internal, which was such a freeing day for me. Like I used to deal with a lot of anger. Like a lot. Everything used to make me mad. And I used to confront everybody. And I used to think that was the solution to resolve. It was complete opposite though. Like the enemy used to, I used to, I mean it. I used to have such an angry peace about me where I would just felt like this justice. Justice was the highest peace for me. And I would pursue justice at all costs. But I would burn relationships and friendships and people and loved ones, and including my own wife, because I would get so worked up that I would ruin the home, and that in my pursuit of justice, I'd create strife in my own house, which is crazy, because in my mind, I'm doing the right thing. And it was such a slippery slope, and it was ruining my home. Like it really, really was. Yeah.
Well, verse 18 says, peacemakers who sow in peace reap a harvest of righteousness. Peacemakers who sow, this is right after the warning of strife in 16:17. Yeah. Peacemakers who sow in peace reap a harvest of righteousness. And you were saying that it's one of those things that you choose. And I think it's hard if we are ruled by our emotions.
For sure.
Because if you're ruled by your emotions, that is king, and your emotions don't want to do that because we want to be right. We want to do that. It's pride what it comes down to. But if you're renewing your mind and you're seeking truly to be like Christ and seeking his ways, and peace is a fruit of the Spirit, and if we want to have peace, like it says, let the peace of Christ rule our hearts. I love expanding on that, just David's biblical version of our minds, our homes, our life. Let it rule everything that we are. That helps shape your lens by which you view situations. If I'm going in situations like you're saying, I need justice to prevail. Well, there's probably going to be a little bit of a trail that's left behind, right? But if it's like, I want peace to come through this situation, it still means you want the right thing to be done. Doesn't mean you compromise when it comes to what is sin, what is not, what is moral and what's immoral. Like, let's not go into a ditch on one side. It doesn't mean you compromise on everything for the sake of peace. But it's using the word peacemaker, not peacekeeper.
Right.
And your dad freed me on this. He probably freed everyone on this because you talk about this all the time. Peacekeepers often are just, I'm just going to appease, right? Let's just keep the peace.
Keep the peace.
And you don't really confront because it's going to create a little, it's going to ruffle people's feathers. But peacemakers are willing to, but you remember, is you're willing to confront, willing to have the tough talks, willing to do what you need to do, but your aim is peace, and you're coming at it from that perspective and that angle to not keep the peace, but to make sure peace is a result that comes out of it. And I think that's something we truly can do. What James is talking about, when you, like you said, you make the choice, you're constantly daily choosing to let heavenly wisdom prevail over our own earthly wisdom.
And ask God for help.
Exactly.
That's all I do. It's like, Lord, I know I'm causing strife. I know I'm stuck in this. Help me. And you'd be amazed at how he gives you the right response or the idea or the thought or the word to just change how you see it. It's a heart posture. It always comes back to that. Just ask him for help.
I often, whenever I'm needing clarity on this, for me, this has been a really cool exercise. Like, for example, I remember I had a lot of strife between myself and another employee years ago, 12 or 15 years ago. And the more, like your dad used to say this, the more I thought about it, the angrier I got. And I would get to work and I'd already be ready to fight as soon as I got in, because everything we talked about was a fight. Everything we did, every project, every document, every meeting, always a fight. Oh, I only have a minute left. I got to wrap this thought up. Okay, sorry, I lost my thought. I was going to say.
Strife.
Oh, I now often will use, what if this was my wife? How would I handle this? And so it sounds weird. This is a guy, but I'd literally be like, if this was Tamara, how would I pursue this? I would not be this angry. I would be not this loaded. I'd be much more ready to hear and listen, ready to understand. And it changed the entire relationship we had. I started to pretend like I need to value this person like I do my wife or my child or my friend. And it essentially elevated that person to a position of love. And then we found resolve. And it had nothing to do with that person. It was all me. Like,
so
that was
true,
one of the biggest lessons I had. I hope today, these conversations fly by. I hope you guys subscribe, like, comment, let us know. We go to the comments. We look for what you're saying. I hope you've called. I hope you sign up for Devoted. I hope that if you want to become a donor of Miracle Channel, that you would support us to go further, wider, as we get the gospel, the good news out. God bless you guys. We'll see you same time tomorrow on Thrive.
Thrive is only made possible by the generous donations of people like you. 100% of your donation goes towards ministry efforts. Call today and make a significant impact in the lives of Canadians. Through your financial investment, you are a missionary to the world. Phone lines will remain open for a limited time. Connect with us now by calling 1-800-815-6513 or visit miraclechannel.ca/thrive to leave your comments, prayer requests, and praise reports. Together, let's thrive.